Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tao of the Day. This is what I do on weekdays. I come on and I talk to you about the Tao Te Ching. And the Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, apparently, and according to all things. And I am here to help you kind of help live a more reasonable life. The Tao Te Ching translates to the canon of reason, so it is the collection of writings, the canon of reason, of how to live a more reasonable life. There are 81 verses in the Tao, and they all really kind of talk about some of the same things, but they talk about it in many different ways. And so if you are interested in picking a number between 1 and 81, I would love to have you come up and pick a number. The numbers are just different verses of the Tao. And so let's see what we have here. Intention with sham is all I got. I don't know, I don't know how that would finish off, but I'm looking forward.
Nice.
Hello.
It's Shamanisis. Hi.
Oh, shamanisis.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Wonderful. I have seen your one of my favorite books when I was getting into spirituality was the Tao of. Oh, I'm gonna go totally blank. From the 70s, I think it was. So when I saw the name of your show, I just had to call in. I'm
Oh, yeah.
Shamanisis, and I recently joined Wisdom about a week and a half ago, and I've been having a blast.
Wonderful. Well,
I
thank you for
I love
joining.
numbers. What are you doing today?
So there are 81 verses in the Tao Te Ching, and I ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81, and then we will read that verse of the Tao, and then we'll go through it line by line, see if there's anything resonating.
Very cool. How about 44?
44, very good number.
Thank you.
So 44 states, fame or integrity, which is more important? Money or happiness, which is more valuable? Success or failure, which is more destructive? If you look to others for fulfillment, you'll never truly be fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you.
Love that. That's
So, what
wonderful.
are some of your initial thoughts? What are some things that maybe popped out while I was reading it, or things that like just stick with you?
Do you mind reading it one more time at your normal pace?
Hmm. Fame or integrity, which is more important? Money or happiness, which is more valuable? Success or failure, which is more destructive? If you look to others for fulfillment, you will never be truly fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think the one about money, the part about money is so very true. Myself, I stepped back from an established career to go into spirituality, and I'm much more fulfilled pursuing full-time spiritual work than I ever was, in terms of working full-time in the marketing and communications world.
Mm.
And at my most successful by traditional standards, I was my absolute most miserable. And interestingly enough, it was a moment in terms of dealing with fame in my career, because I worked in PR in New York City, so there were famous people about, especially in high fashion. And at that moment, when I had that epiphany about how miserable I was sandwiched between two really, really famous people. And I realized that no matter how successful that event was, I was never going to be happy until I aligned myself internally, my mind, body, and soul.
Mm.
Nothing external will
Right.
ever fill the void. It's just a bottomless pit.
Yeah, I like to call those hungry ghosts, right?
I like that.
Like, right, they just keep eating and eating and eating, and you can never feed them enough, right? You're when we look at fame or integrity, which is more important, like when you look at, like, you can be you can be full of integrity at any moment, but fame is always that elusive thing. No matter how much you have, there's always a little more you can have.
Oh
Even
yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah.
and
And people get addicted to it and they start to sacrifice everything in their life just to keep it because it, temporarily fills all these holes that we're talking about, the ghost holes.
yeah,
And then they need more and more, like any good drug, they need more and more and more until one day they realize that all they're doing is working to stoke something that is meaningless at the end of
yeah,
the day.
yeah. And it's interesting how this verse utilizes these three words: important, valuable, and destructive, right? Fame or integrity, which is more important? Which is more important to you? Which is more important in the grand scheme? And then money or happiness, which is more valuable? What a wonderful word to use to talk about happiness and money, right? Money has this like weird intrinsic value, and happiness is this thing that we have internally.
Oh yeah, and it is the thing that people would pay everything they have for, but can be created without money.
Right. And people buy and buy and buy thinking that, like, oh, this money is valuable, so I'm putting it towards my happiness. I want to go on vacation. I want to have this big thing. I want to have a house or a car or this or whatever.
Yeah,
And all of that value, once you have that thing, just slips away.
yeah, it's true. It's true. That's why you have to. It's so important to be stable in your internal happiness, your consciousness. And that's what I love about consciousness. I mean, sure, we can have manifestations and goals that are really important to us and pursue those things, but we have to have a stable foundation for our mind, body, and soul harmony because there's natural ebbs and flows, and you can't destabilize every time life happens, and then when it goes up, when the highs are super high, you see them for what they are.
Yeah, and like, and this is where, this next line: success or failure, which is more destructive? When you get those really high highs of success, it's like, you're standing on the precipice of what will inevitably be a down.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
of course.
yeah. So that's, like, and when we talk about destructive, how many successes do we look back at? Like, look at all of the oil tycoons, and look at all the energy people that have, like, ultimately, like, lived these high, rich, successful, like, traditionally successful lives, and they've really laid waste to so many lives, and so much of the planet even.
Oh, absolutely. And many of them just don't care at all. It's narcissism on its most extreme.
So then we move into this next line. If you look to others for fulfillment, you'll never be truly fulfilled. And, like your story about being stuck between two famous people, it's like, like, like the work that you did, where it's always, like you're constantly on this, hamster wheel of success, of like, it's not enough. It's not enough. Let's do more. Let's get bigger. Let's have more.
Yeah. Yeah. And what happens too, it's interesting that you say that because that's true for life, but it also happens in your job that when you achieve, like people convince us that in our jobs or our careers, when we achieve a certain level, everything will be okay. Just work to that goal and everything will be okay. But that's not how life works. Everything has to be okay without achieving the goal.
That's
And
right.
achieving the goal can be great. It can be icing on the cake. But what happens in most, especially in America, is that when you achieve that goal, they give you more responsibility and not the same equal pay. And then they raise the bar
Right.
because they can't, because like a person who is super, rich or super fit or thin, they get addicted to the high from it and they stop realizing that what goes into getting that to happen. So it's like this. You're right. It's never ending hamster wheel.
Yeah. You're just chasing that golden carrot on the stick.
Yeah, absolutely. You
That's
know,
what it's about.
and then are you going to be willing to do the hard work when the high is over? which is true for, like, I think a lot of relationships and things. There's this whole chase aspect that I think it's glamorized in movies and books, when in fact it's actually not the most interesting part. The most interesting part is the evolution of putting raising yourself to I'm not saying this, make sure I say this correctly, evolving so that the standard continues to, in a healthy way, continues to raise for what is for an exciting relationship. It should get higher, and the two people should be working towards it together and continue to be just as happy and delighted in their relationship 10 years from now as they are when they get married. But so much of everything is about those first few steps.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
And it's, it's hard work to be in a relationship and to get together with somebody and mash two completely different lives together in some fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. Do you this is this a regular thing that you do with the towel?
Weekdays. Yeah, weekday morning, Central Time, sometime in the morning. So the next line states, if your happiness depends upon money, you will never be happy with yourself. And I think that we really addressed that a little bit through the last line as well. Like, instead of a relationship with somebody, you have this relationship with money. Like, can you be happy with yourself within this relationship? Or is it dependent on how much money you have, or what you can buy?
Oh yeah, I think it's very important to be sovereign and self-sustaining, to be aiming for that as best you can. And sure, some relationships will evolve, and one may choose to not work a traditional role. But if a relationship can, I think it will be much more fruitful if both people have their own security and uh, life purpose outside of the relationship that drives um, their own evolution. They're giving back. They're also creating a foundation of independence for themselves, because people, I think that starts to develop into a lot of unhealthiness when one person is dependent on another. I'm not saying relationships like that can't work, because that's just the true reality, especially if one of the people is raising the children, which is a job in and of itself. But I think some way in which to approach those things where it shows that for that purpose person, that is their life purpose, and it should be treated as such. Those things are really important to ensure that two people who can, you don't get into these situations, these dynamics where one person is starts to take advantage of the situation.
Mm. Yeah, and I think really it's this idea, like what we're saying here is like, if you look to others for fulfillment, you'll never be truly fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, it says money here, but if your happiness depends on anything external from yourself, you will never be happy with yourself. And so that's
Exactly.
when we get into relationship, or when we find ourselves wherever we find ourselves, it's so important to be able to understand that we have to be happy with ourselves. And if we're not happy with ourselves, then something needs to change.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's the direction that we want to go in, is be happy with ourselves. And that doesn't mean that the relationship is forfeit. It just means we have to change the way we're thinking. We have to change the way we're being. Maybe the relationship needs to end, but maybe it's just about like us looking at our triggers and growing into who we are. As we continue this piece to the last section, be content with what you have. And I also like to add, be content with who you are.
Yeah.
Rejoice in the way things are. Rejoice in the way things are in your life, the way that you experience them. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you.
Oh, I think that's so incredibly true. But I don't think that's how most people are taught to feel or think. We're taught, especially the American dream. I think there's something very insidious about the way the whole thing was structured and what its impact on people's lives. They were basically being set up to see climbing a ladder as somehow their life's journey.
I'll go back to that line, rejoice in the way things are.
Right.
Like there's a like you, whether or not that's true, like like I don't believe in the American dream, um, personally, but we can rejoice in the way thing in what it's brought us, and we can rejoice in the way that things are. And yes, we have like you, Shaman Isis, and other individuals here on Wisdom have found their way from that and have found a deeper understanding. And when we realize there is nothing lacking as we are on the journey to doing, the whole world belongs to us.
So true. I was single for a really long time, and finally was called to step out of that and start to open myself up. Uh, because a relationship for me is it's not it's important in terms of the work that I do in some aspects, which is a whole other story. But I'd been unhappy for a really long time and was 100 pounds overweight. And for me, I wanted to take care of myself, get myself on the right track and established and healthy and functioning and all those things, mind, body, and soul, before I opened the door to something. And I think that's one of the hardest things they want. A lot of people want, or we're taught to go seek the validation and the high of attention. And then you'll be okay. And then you can go get.
Oh, you cut off. If you wanted to come back up and land that really quick, I would be happy to bring you back up. Energy Lady is next. We're going to get to you as soon as Shaman Isis is done. And we're going to probably land this really quick.
Where it cut off. I was just saying that I lost, that I chose to. I think it's important to take care of yourself and not seek the a lot of people will go seek the validation of trying to get the attention of people because that makes them feel temporarily good. Where I had to choose to take care of myself and go get healthy. I lost 100 pounds uh, in that pursuit of making sure that I was whole. And that's hard for us to do because we're not taught that. And it's one of the things I'm trying to teach people through my own work is that your mind, body, and soul harmony is very important before you go out seeking to mix with another person.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. And I think that lines with what we were talking about here. So thank you so much,
You're
Shaman.
so welcome. Have a beautiful day.
You as well.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Nancy's gonna come up. Oh, Energy Lady. What? Like, I read the name. What am I reading the name for? I know you. What's going on there?
You know what? It doesn't matter. I changed it on purpose.
Good.
Yeah. Changed it for the purpose of me. What do you think of that?
Well, that's the only purpose there is.
Right? Yeah, so how are you? That was a great
I'm doing well.
conversation. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that conversation.
Yeah, it was the first time Shaman Isis and I have interacted, so that was nice.
Yeah, she's got good perspective. Enjoyable perspective, I should say. But yes, the number 2 jumped in my face when you came on, so I'm going with it.
When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. It's interesting. We start here, and I'm just gonna cut in really quick
Yeah,
just to
go for
say,
it.
like as you just mentioned, she has a good perspective, and you pulled that back, and she has an enjoyable perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea that it's like, no, it's enjoyable to me. This is how I'll express it.
Yes.
I don't have to explain. I don't have to put it in the category of good and bad. And so
Yes.
here we go. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short depend upon each other. No. Long and short define each other. High and low depend upon each other. Before and after follow each other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess. Acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever.
That's beautiful. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, because the little debate that's been going on inside of me because of the paradigm shift of going from them to me. which, has definitely, in my world, has been defined as being super selfish. And how can you think you're helping people when you're not, focusing on others? And I realized through my wonderful journey that focusing on others is great as long as I take care of me first.
Yeah.
That wasn't something I knew. So this is very exciting because that I don't do the good bad. And so when I said that, I'm like, no, I'm going to really define what that means to me. But yes, let's keep going. Let's
Yeah,
let's let's do it our way.
This is the thing that I like to bring in the end to the beginning, because
Absolutely.
there is a little bit of a disconnect. There can be a disconnect here, because like we start, when people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become that. That is the creation of those opposites. And I look at the end of this and I say, and it says, things arise and she lets them come, things disappear and she lets them go. And when I hear those words, I'm like, you accept things for what they are. They're not.
Yes.
They needn't be defined in any way. They needn't be expressed, even if they make you feel tense. That tension is you're defining it.
Yes.
And so when you can get to a place of not, like, of separating yourself from that tension, meaning you stop thinking, right? You stop the contributing of definition to this moment, then you don't have to see it as ugly. You don't have to see it as bad. You don't have to see it as frustrating. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She notices them. She
Right.
recognizes them. She recognizes that, oh, this caused tension. I can let that go.
Right.
And then I can let that go because the tension was in my defining that before I was aware it was going to come. She has but doesn't possess, act but doesn't expect. And that's a big aspect of this idea of not defining. If you can act without any expectation, because how much expectation is in our actions, like, they're hidden in there. No matter how much we think we have no expectations, we often do.
Right. Because I'm continuously learning what that means to me.
Right.
Because of the definitions. I mean, the fun that the fun that I have is the oxymorons. Let's just keep talking about the oxymorons.
Yeah.
The way people, the way it's ingrained, trying to be ingrained in humans, and that's kind of the fun of the journey for me. And yeah, but what my thing was standing out. That was a scary thing for me. To be
Mm-hmm.
me, to be who I am. It's like, no, you can be who you are as long as you do it our way.
Right.
And that's what I'm learning and right now, and it's actually a lot more fun inside of me because it just feels better.
Yeah, and as you kind of move towards things that feel better, you're going to carry less stress. You're going to, like, really become younger. Even you're going to have more energy. You're going to become more elastic. You're going to be able to go and do more things. You're going to, rather than closing yourself off into a singular concept, you know. And this is, so we start number 2 with, when people see something as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. So there is this definition, right? We're talking now about, like, this idea of we define things. We define things: beautiful, ugly, good, bad. When is this going to happen? All of the things that are going on with the January 6th stuff, all the things that are going on with global warming, all of these things that we're experiencing right now, we can define them as good or bad or beautiful or ugly or all of this stuff. But we move into this next section of this, these 5 groupings of being and create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend upon each other. Before and after follow each other. So these are all the opposites, right?
I
These
was
are
going to
all the
say
things.
what I feel that is those are laws of the universe. You can't change them. You can't change how it works, no matter what. It is what it is.
Yeah, being and non-being create each other. Like,
Exactly. But good and bad are choices of emotions. But being and non-being is just what it is. I don't know if that makes sense.
difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend upon each other. Before and after follow each other. I think these are, like as we're looking at this, these are like the being and non-being is interesting because when you are being, you have access to the non-being. You have access to the Tao, and then that creates being. That creates your action. That creates something. Without pretense, you can be.
You can,
Yeah.
because but it's a given.
But without one, you don't have the other.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of like I tell people all the time. You're trying to control the universe trying, and I say trying on purpose, by thinking that you can control the law of attraction. Well, then show me how you can control the law of gravity, and then we'll go from there. There's
Yeah,
a lot of
and like in all of these, it's like whether it's high or whether it's low, it doesn't matter because
exactly,
it's all about it's all about how we're defining it because
exactly,
something else could be much higher and then all of a sudden be or much taller, like tall and short, long and short define each other. You can be on a long journey, like Julie's on a long journey, but when she's done with it, it's going to be really short. Her
right,
experience of it is going to just be a simple memory,
right. And
or she'll let go of that altogether.
that's where I was going, because I look at what's gone on in my life, and this number two is defining what I was definitely living in. And I don't want to live in that anymore. And that's why I'm laughing, going, yep. And then, having Isis come up and talk, that was part of mine,
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
And then it finishes off. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. That's
Yes.
the thing. Like the master doesn't have to define good or bad. The master doesn't have to express what is good or what is bad or what is right or what is wrong. Long and short define each other. The master doesn't have to. The master doesn't have to depend on high or low. High or low depend upon each other. Difficult or easy doesn't need support by the master because they support each other. And everybody will experience those things as themselves.
What I like about that is that's what I've been kind of just stepping back from, is figuring out the way that I want to be
Yeah.
when I'm, just like right now. And I keep, just ask myself, what are the things I love to do? All the time. And I'm like, I like to talk. I like to create.
Yeah.
I like to be colorful. All right, that's all I'm going to do. And everything else will come into place because nothing else works. I've tried all the other stuff that supposedly makes it work. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And then like this moves out. Like this is where we started, like to compare that beginning. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go.
Yes. And
And
that is still a learning thing for me. Go ahead.
yeah, and that is like when something arises, and arising and disappearing are opposites as well. Coming and going are opposites, and so things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear, she lets them go. Things are beautiful, she lets them be. Things are ugly, she lets them be. It's all of this sort of being present moment to moment and allowing those other things that are present with us to
Be
hold
what they
that
are.
space as well.
Right, without definition.
Right, without having to put it in any sort of box or even put ourselves in any sort of box
Right.
of expectation or presumption.
Right.
She has but doesn't possess, acts but doesn't expect.
And that is what I'm enjoying right there. Act and doesn't expect.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things I'm learning, because that was something that was definitely not an understood thing for me. And I like it. I want more people to feel that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be it and see what happens.
You know, and I was talking with Shaman Isis a little bit ago, and we were talking, you know, a little bit about this idea: you have but don't possess. You know, the whole world belongs to you, right? Like when you can get to that place, the entire world belongs to you. So you can walk outside and you can have this tree, you can have this grass, you can have this breeze, but you don't have to possess it. You don't have to own it. You know, we were talking about the idea that you know, like you can own a lot of things that, you know, maybe make you feel good for a little while, but when you can be in this place, you know, of just not expecting but having without possessing, you can have the entire world.
Right. And when I was listening to you guys, what I kept hearing was, the black and white doesn't work. This is what was going through my head. Black and
Yeah.
white doesn't work. The gray area does, because then it's more of an appreciation factor for it being what it is.
Right.
And that's a definite newness to my heart, and I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So, no, this is beautiful. I'm so
And
glad
then
I jumped in. Go ahead.
this last line: when her work is done, she forgets it. That's why it lasts forever. And that's a big thing. You know, that's a big reminder for me as well. Sometimes I remember too much stuff. You know, and I don't remember much, but I still could forget more. And I
Yeah.
really want to just be here in the moment, where sometimes I allow that last moment to follow me.
I get that. And you know what? When I was working with clients, they always wanted me to remember. And I told them in the beginning, I don't. Don't call me up and think that I'm going to know what I did, what I told you, because it's not
Right.
for me to have. And
Right.
that's what I want to live for myself at all times now.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I talk about writing that way, where it's like you write something down and it was right when you wrote it.
Yes.
But 5 minutes from now, it might not be right, and I might not even agree with it in 5 minutes.
Right. Right.
You know, even though I was the one that wrote it, and it was true when I wrote it, it might not be true, nor might I agree with it at this moment. So you know, like this moment is this moment, and it is
Yes.
only this moment, and it has nothing to do with what brought us here, because we
Right.
might not have this might not be a linear experience at all.
And hey, sounds like a child on a playground, right? You just go out there, you play, you enjoy, and the next thing is the next thing. They don't think about it for the rest of the days. They just play.
Now just play. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Energy Lady.
Love you.
Oh, Dr. Rao jumped down. Empress. Not that I wanted you to wait anymore. I love talking about Chicago Sister. What's going on?
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I am doing beautifully. Very blessed today. How are you?
Oh, I am getting over COVID
Oh, girl. Where'd you pick that up?
from my husband.
Ah, hell.
Okay.
Ain't that the way?
That's why you all haven't seen me, because the last time I was on, I was feeling a little sick, but really wasn't. I just thought maybe I'm catching a little cold or something, and ended up having to go to the hospital. Had COVID, so I'm just coming out
You
the
went.
woods
So
now.
did you do a stay in the hospital?
Only overnight.
Okay, that's still a stay.
Yeah, only
Yeah.
overnight. But yeah, so I'm, just now coming out the woods, trying to get my strength back up and continue what I was doing. But I loved your conversation with Nancy. That was such a beautiful conversation. She picked
Thank
a wonderful number this morning. I did not get really a chance to hear the other lady because I just came in.
Yeah.
But you have been on my mind. Couple of things I got to tell you. I'm coming back to Chicago next year. Yay!
All right.
I'm getting out of Texas. This heat down here is just brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. 104, 107. It's brutal.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, yeah. No rain, nothing. It is
No.
brutal. I can't take it.
Well, that's the nice thing about Chicago. When it gets hot, you know, it gets in, you know, upper 90s, lower hundreds sometimes.
Yeah,
But then, you know, like within a couple days,
it cools off.
you get a good rain.
Yeah,
You get a good rain.
and you got Lake Michigan breeze and
That's
all of
right.
that stuff.
You can do it all, man. You can get up early and you can get your ass out there and just like breathe that nice air, like right off the lake.
Yeah, I told my husband, I said, I'm sorry, but we got to go back. I cannot do this. It's okay. So it'll be next year sometime because when you relocate long distance, that's a plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
But yeah, but I you were on my mind while I was sick. I had a dream and I dreamt 777. So I don't know what that number is. So in lieu of the three sevens, I'm gonna go with 77.
77. Hmm. Okay. Well, then let's look at this in relation to COVID. I'm just putting that out there. We're gonna
Okay.
like that's just an intention. I don't know if it's gonna link or anything.
Okay.
It acts in the world as it acts in the world. The Tao is like the bending of a bow. The top is bent downward. The bottom is bent up. It adjusts excess and deficiency so there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. Those who try to control, who use force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. They take from those who don't have enough and give to those who have far too much. The master can keep going. Nope, the master can keep giving because there is no end to her wealth. She acts without expectation, succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think she is better than anyone else.
That's interesting because when I heard you mention before about um, what was it? I call it accepting but not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I learned many, many years ago, and I began to practice because oftentimes our expectations make us fall into failure
Mm.
because we expectations cause you to frame things with timelines and visions and shapes and dates and
It
all of
just
these different.
it
It
sets
just
you up.
it sets you up for failure.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't come in the form in which your mind has shaped, then you
Mm-hmm.
become disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Yup.
So I learned many years ago to really master that for myself,
Yeah.
because you at some point along your journey get tired of disappointment,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes into alignment with, if we are trying to fulfill our purpose, then we cannot have expectations.
Right. Because then we're defining them,
Right.
and our purpose is something greater than can be defined.
Absolutely.
And that's like a lot of people want to be able to, I and even Energy Lady and I were talking about that idea of like once you write it down, it's over, right? Like you can't, it's not right. But in what we're talking about, it's like once you understand your purpose, that's not your purpose, right? That's that like it has to be greater than that. You are greater than that. You are greater than what you can describe.
Absolutely.
Your mind is such a small
Oh,
thing. We are so much bigger than that. And, as it acts upon the world, the Tao is like the bending of a bow. The top bent down, the bottom is bent up. And when we look at this idea that you're bringing up, this idea that like, oh, you have a purpose, it's like that is the top, but you have to bring the bottom up as well. Right? Like you can have this grandiose idea, but you have to be able to be humble in the fact that you don't know everything,
right.
that you don't have the answer, that the answer isn't here for you to know. It is only here for you to Like the answer is only there to fool you into thinking you have the answer. That's just your ego.
Right. Yeah. And I really hate I use the word purpose because I don't really believe in that word or like that word. But I just
Yeah,
it just kind of rolled out just for the conversation end of it to get my point across.
yeah,
Because you're absolutely right. We are definitely greater than the definement. That's why we're seeking it because we don't know how to define it.
right. We're always seeking, like we talk about the idea of structure and substance. The structure is the house, but the substance of the house is the empty space inside in which you
Yeah.
live. And here, when you like, we all have deep purpose, however we want to describe that. But when you try to put that purpose within a structure, you're closing yourself off to so much of you, of
Hmm.
all that you are, because your purpose is to be God.
Right.
And you can't describe, like, just because we have a word for God doesn't mean we understand it.
That right.
It's like people, you can ask somebody, explain infinity to me. Okay, well, here's this box that I understand infinity. But
Hmm.
it's like, nah, fool, like, if you think you can express something that has never begun or never ended, or if you can express that, you're missing the
Or
point.
experienced.
Right. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And as we look at this, it continues, it adjusts excess and deficiency, so there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. And if we were to look at COVID in that way, and it's taken people's lives, and it's taken, like, and there is still deficiency here, because there is still, it is there is like, there is a reckoning coming, right?
Right. Right.
And I think that, when we experienced 2 years of pandemic, I think people really started to recognize that their happiness is
Hmm.
definitely more important and more valuable than just
Hmm.
being in the constant race for money
When you
and
have
giving up.
COVID and you're trying to catch that next breath,
Yeah.
because it is a struggle with breathing. It is a
Yeah.
respiratory disease,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't think you're not thinking about anything in your house. You're not thinking about anything external in the world. You're not thinking about what's on your desk at work that you need to get complete. You know what I'm saying? It is going, when you mentioned earlier, going, I think you said from them to me,
Mm.
it is that process,
Yeah.
returning back to what is really important,
And that's breathing.
and that's breathing.
And how many of us stop every day and just focus on our breath? How much, how many years have people been talking about meditation? Focus on your breath. Focus on
Hmm.
your breath. And here we go, and we get COVID, which is something that you can't do anything but focus on your breath.
Hmm.
Those who try to control, who use
Yeah.
force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. Imagine, like, if you're trying, like you have to be with your body, be with the disease while you are with the illness, while you have COVID. And you have to work with
Hmm.
it in order to breathe.
Hmm.
You're not going to control COVID. You have to work with it. And you have to fight to be able to be there. And the more you control, the more you try to allow that, the more you try to allow that, the more you're going to be able to breathe. I think. I don't know. I've never had COVID.
Hmm. 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 It puts you in your place. It does.
Yeah.
It does, because I spend a lot of time just, really in retrospect thinking and being still, and and in my teachings, I am a huge advocate of stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of people don't understand the importance of stillness. And I say that when you get sick, that is the universe, that is God now forcing you to be still, because you can't receive the knowledge or information that you are supposed to receive because you're too busy in the world. So therefore you have to be forced. And then when you get to that place, that's a bad way. That's a bad way to become still. It's easier to
Yeah.
do it on your own. But when you become still and then you are shown those things that you need to be doing or focusing on it in your life, then you create the value when you're in the valley.
Yeah. And that happened to me with my MS, which is what brought me on this journey, right? On the
Mm-hmm.
journey of healing through my recovery and all of that. Like healing through my experiences of recovery. Where before, I was very much like, I did it. I don't care. Like, it was very much I was like, look, like I had to leave a lot behind in order to get to where I was, and because I wasn't supported in the way I did things, I kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, well, whatever, I did it. But then I realized that I had a lot of information that I could partake and or spread, and so that's what I did, because I had to be still with my MS because I was bedridden for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She acts
Mm-hmm.
without expectation and succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think she's better than anyone else. And that puts you, when things put you in your place, and that's if we're gonna bring it back to COVID, it's just like, not that you had thought you were better than anybody else, but just
Mm-hmm.
this idea that you can be present here in this moment with something that maybe we take for granted sometimes, our breath.
Everyone on this planet takes for granted their breath
Yeah.
because without it, we cannot exist. There is no existence. But that is the highest gift man has in his body is his breath. So we often don't respect it until we are in some threatening situation, and that's the truth. I mean, we just don't. We smoke cigarettes, some
Oh
people
yeah.
smoke weed, we drink, you do all of these things that
Take those
short
energy drinks. I mean, energy drink.
the
I've
oh
only
the,
had like one or two of those in my life, but I
uh-huh.
know that they affect my breathing.
Oh, a friend of mine used to drink them like they were Coca-Colas, and I kept telling him, I said, you shouldn't. That's not healthy. Those are just chemicals. And so he ended up having a heart attack, and now he's on what the breathing machine. I forget what you call it. I'm not used to that, but
Oxygen.
anyway, the oxygen, right? He's on the oxygen machine. So you know, we think that because the world tell us things are okay. See, we're getting our instruction.
Oh, you dropped. We're getting our instruction. You come back. Yeah, we'll land this real quick. We're getting our instruction is where you ended.
Saying we're getting our instructions from the wrong place externally
Yes,
and not internally.
exactly, exactly. And I think
Yeah.
that like when we get that of this is when I talk about living under the influence, right? We live under the influence of our parents, our teachers, the society we live in, the culture, the consumerism, all of the stuff. We're living under the influence of those things. And now that COVID happened, I think a lot of people, not necessarily the disease, but the pandemic as a thing, I think people are starting to realize that, like, I do have the answer within me, and
Hmm.
I'm not better. My answer isn't better than anybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
so if you have a different answer, that's okay.
right. That's your answer.
That's your answer, and I
That may not be
support that.
my answer. That's your answer. But we
Right.
have to learn how to respect other people's, whatever they are experiencing. We can't challenge what their God is saying to them, what the inside is saying to them. We can't challenge that
No.
because You know what I'm saying? Says, oh, really? Oh, so God told you that, right? We can't challenge that because he speaks to each one of us differently, and he has a message, and we're all here to do something different. We're all here at different frequencies and vibrations and levels of understandings and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. We're all different. That's what makes us different. But we must learn not only who we are in terms of a human being, but we must understand who we are in terms of our spiritual intelligence.
And our
So,
group intelligence, right?
and our
Like we are,
group
we are, we
intelligence,
are one.
absolutely,
We
you
are
know,
one. And so I need you to think differently than I do because
right,
I can't think everything.
right. So COVID has been a blessing and a lesson for me these past couple of weeks.
Well, then
Uh,
it's been a
I
blessing
can,
and a lesson to each of us. So thank you for doing that work
okay,
for all of us.
okay, no problem. But I will see you soon. I'm coming back in now.
All
I'm
right.
getting
Thank you,
better.
love.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye. And you know, like it ended really beautifully here with Empress, this idea that like she did work that we're all benefiting from. We can be grateful to all the people that suffered through COVID and had that experience. That experience is something that we as a whole needed to have had. And each person who, you know, came down with COVID and had the different experience contributed to that whole understanding, the cosmic consciousness of all of us. And what a beautiful thing. And so thank you, Empress, for going through that, and thank you for sharing that with me. As it acts on the world, the Tao is like the bending of the bow. The top is bent down and the bottom is bent up. That was the beginning of 77. Thank you so much for listening to the Tao. Oh, we do have, oh, Mary Kay.
Martin, I just want
Hey.
to say you look beautiful on Instagram. And I'm
Oh.
so happy for you. I am so happy for you.
Yeah, that's me and
Give her a big hug from me,
I
whoever.
will. I
Yeah.
will. When I see her, I will.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a beauty.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming up and supporting that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll let you go because I know you wanted to go. So
Yeah, I was stepping out,
yeah.
but
So
thank you for coming up, Mary Kay. I
okay.
appreciate
We'll
that.
do it another day.
Sounds good.
Okay, honey. Bye.
Bye bye. So once again, this is Tao of the Day. You can find me here weekday mornings, Central Time. Sometime I usually pop up, you know, between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Not that you have to stick around and check on me. All you got to do is follow me, and you'll get a push notification. If you benefit from the work that I do, send me a little financial tip through Venmo at @MartinJohn_Garcia. You can find me on Instagram as Mary Kay has done, and see all the things that are going on and that I'm presenting. I definitely work in the realm of recovery. So, and I talk about this concept of recovering to. So, if you have been on a journey of recovering from, or if you have not been on a journey of recovery at all, I talk all about what it means to recover to who you are. And this is part of my Dharma. This is part of my offering is Tao of the Day. And like I said, you come up, pick a number between 1 and 81, and we do that weekdays. So today is Friday. I will see you all on Monday morning. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.